Sefer and trying to learn while he's holding up the column.
They said Tanakh Baal Peh. Tanakh Baal Peh in 3 months is a hefty shiur.
It's a lot of Baal Peh to say.
It's a lot of, because you see, if to say Tilim alone in 1 month it's a
yeah.
It's a 5-minute shiur, a minute minimum. Say the whole Tanakh.
That's one of the books.
And just while they'll fold the talis.
Tilim is one of the 24 books. It's not one of the smallest, but it's still one.
How many stone there were using those times? I think I couldn't say even the first
No, Rambam, they were exempt from Rambam. That came later. Because we didn't do the Nach, so we got the Rambam instead.
So when it says they used to do Mishnayos, it also means they used to do Mishnayos Baal Peh, or Mishnayos they would sit down and have a shiur after that?
No, Mishnah is a shiur. Mishnah is a shiur.
Wait, what was Baal Peh? Anything?
The Tanakh was saying Baal Peh.
But how many people it's like this? It's like, how many is a lot or it's like 10?
Yeah, that was the average Chassidish German.
So before to be a host, it was like it wasn't like anybody just came to Tom Hedrim and learned. It was the special people of each generation.
No, but in the Hayom it says Beinanim.
But Beinanim between the big people.
Beinanim is the average person.
Average person knew the whole Tanakh.
Mm-hmm.
Was it really easy in those times? Like, was parallel to what we do? Like,
What?
is it like proportional? Is there any proportion at all between what they were and what we are, comparing in the circumstances and the generation and everything, or is really not that we're doing what? I don't know if my question is really
Yeah, it's very difficult to find a parallel. Baruch Hashem, let me tell you something. And everybody has to be measured not by what he accomplished, but where he's coming from. You know, somebody is on the summit, but he was born there, so big deal. Somebody had to climb up the Everest. It's a different story. And even climbing the Everest, I don't know if you're familiar, the Everest has 2 sides. There's a side that you can climb the Everest almost the same way as you walk up a mountain. I mean, it's a long walk, but it's a walk up a mountain. It's the other side that's straight. That it all depends.
Still seems pretty amazing. I mean, that we're not going to be judged by that standard is good, but that they can do it is still quite amazing.
Yes.
I mean, it seems like when you talk about.
I can tell you something. Okay, it seems that you're so downplaying yourselves. I'm going to tell you something. Someone who, till the age of 22, knew nothing of Yiddishkeit, and then he turns around, even 10 years later, is able to understand a deep insight in Chassidus, is a miracle of miracles. What happens within a year after that, or 2 years after that? Some transformation has taken place. So, yes, they were great people, but you guys have nothing to be ashamed of. Just pursue it and do your thing.
Oh, for sure. I wasn't.
Oh, look at that! Yeah, no.
I wasn't at all trying to like. There was. It's just in terms of just the ability of a person to memorize that alone. I mean, obviously, I'm not in such a way like, look how great they were, and look, we're like nothing over here. I was just, like, it seems like before, like, pre-war, Europe and Russia, like.
I'll tell you, you should know another thing. I mean, yes, I've known very great people who knew Shas, who were really men of tremendous scope and stature, both in Aveda and in learning and all that. But as far as memory is concerned, our memories have been dampened a tremendous amount because everything is available to us. You know, people have forgotten how to add 2 and 2. How about 2 and 2?
Makes sense. Nevertheless, like when you read this Israelis, it seems like you couldn't stumble into a shtetl where you didn't have 10 people who were Baki B'Shas.
Yeah.
These days, when you talk about someone who's Baki B'Shas, wow, he's Baki B'Shas, but back then it's like, before Europe, it's like every town had their minion of people who were Baki B'Shas, their, Fever Tehillim that were saying everything about that. It's like, it's a great contrast.
When I was learning in Europe after the war, and I was a young boy, we shared Gemaras. We didn't have Gemaras for each one. Sometimes we had pages, not even a whole Gemara. And sometimes we had 3 boys sharing the Gemara, 2 on each side, and the other was reading upside down from the other side of the table. That's how we learned. There were no Sfarim around. What we have now, the abundance, it's a different world. The Rebbe gave a shir, you know the story, I'm sure. The Rebbe gave a shir in France, in one of the shuls on the Pletzel, that's a Jewish street over there. So there was a shortage of Gemaras, and everybody shared Gemaras, except the Rebbe. He was studying there, and he held Gemara himself. And everyone wondered, why doesn't the Rebbe share? Like everybody else share, we have a shortage of Gemaras. And not only did that, but he kept the Gemaras very close to his nose, like as if it was short-sighted. So one time, one of the people there, after the Rebbe finished, snuck in to take a look at the Gemara. What? It was so small print or whatever it is. It was a different Gemara. It wasn't the Gemara that they were learning. All right, we are in the middle of an Inyan. We will start. This is in the middle of the top paragraph on 176, and the line starts with the word "K'moi al inyonei atzmoi." You have the place? K'moi al inyonei atzmoi. Yeah. And the focus of this discussion right now is the principle of hergish. Hergish means that one senses, he has a sense of the Inyan, he feels it. And this is to be understood in contrast to one understanding something. And the point that being made is that to know something will not arouse either a rejection or a draw to it, unless you feel you have a hergish for it. And we explained the other day that this feel means that you're actually involved in the essence of the Inyan itself. There's a difference between understanding and feeling. And what is the difference? Understanding is that you know about this thing, but you're not in contact with the thing itself. Feeling means that you are in contact with the thing itself. And you feel the effect of that Inyan, the positive or the negative effect. When there's a feel for it, that's when it creates a need. When it's only knowledge, it doesn't. And this is, and the Rebbe describes it in various angles, but in simple terms, something that hits home is that when you see a person who has money and it doesn't mean anything to him. A person has an opportunity to make a lot of money and it doesn't entice him, it doesn't strike him. A person who lost a lot of money, it doesn't mean anything. Why is this? Because as I said, it's not about that. He knows the power of money. He knows it, but it doesn't mean anything. He doesn't have a personal feel for it. So this is, if a person doesn't have a feel for money because he has a feel for chassidus, that's not a criticism, that's not a chisod. We're talking about if he doesn't have a feel for anything. It's just oblivious to reality.
Not even himself?
Not even himself. That's exactly what the Rebbe is pointing out.
You mentioned that like this is the idea, like a person is not like an electronic sensor. But could you say like an animal is essentially like a living electronic sensor? Like that's kind of how an animal works, and that's why like an animal is not, for instance, like I was thinking, a person, if he's gonna, you see like an animal, it could be walking next to like a cliff, and it's just walking as if it was walking like anywhere it was walking, it walks the exact same way like on the edge of a cliff, because it's like a sensor. It feels how much room it has, and it knows that it can walk safely in that amount of room, and it just keeps going. With a person who's margish b'das, the idea that there's a big cliff next to him, he could even be 10 feet away, but he feels nervous walking like next to it. He's not just what he's sensing, but he's feeling. He's connected to his surroundings. Is that like you could say like an animal's kind of in that way an animal's kind of much like a computer. It's not. There's nothing there. There's no das there. There's no margish. There's no kashus. It's just it takes in the information and it processes it, and then it operates according to that information. He's like an animal is.
Yeah, an animal is only instinct. Doesn't have a broad perspective on the significance of things. Yes, sure. Yeah.
What I don't understand, I remember we learned about the chokhmah, that it was like a taste. You explained that when you understand in chokhmah, you really feel the taste of something. So what I don't understand is, it seems almost when you taste something, you don't need, if it's already in chokhmah that you perceive the taste, and I thought I understood that point, but then why you have to wait until das comes in order to do something? In chokhmah already is part of you. You even feel its taste. I feel taste, I don't even think about it. It's even higher than it should affect straight. Why I need to wait until there is that?
Right. And even it isn't amazing. There are moments when a person is down that if you give him a piece of food that he normally values, and he really enjoys, like a piece of chocolate, whatever it is that is special to him, and he turns it off. It turns him off when he does have hergish. Even something that he has a very good taste for. So these are two separate inyan. The taste is a taste of the inyan, and hergish is the significance, to be margish the significance of good, the significance of that. It's really a different phase of the inyan.
It's like one.
The expression that we often use is to feel that good is good. Sounds like repetitive, right? Like a play on words. No, this is a meaningful statement. I know it's good, but who cares about good? I don't care. I don't care about it. What's so good about good? That's a very hergish.
I think you say that from the beginning you don't have a taste of chokhmah. After you take the chokhmah, you bring down to the bina and make this comprehend then it's you taste. You start
No, the taste is in Chokhmah. That's when you taste the tam urur, tam is in Chokhmah. Because Chokhmah is in touch with the Inyan. But then there is the Inyan Margish. Margish is not the taste of the Inyan. It's not not the taste, how tasty it is. But Margish means how significant it is.
So taste is the knowledge and the hergish it's midas.
That's right. Hergish is doing Midas. It's the harbinger of Midas. That was before Midas. Hergish brings about Midas.
That good is good, you said, no?
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay, so you have the place, Kmo Yalion Atzmei, V'lochein, okay, in the middle of the line, towards the end of the line. Everybody has a place? V'lochein, Onoroim. For this reason, because everything is dependent on Hergish, and Hergish is dependent on focus. Thus we see Shagam b'inyonei atzmoi, that even in things pertaining to himself, to oneself, im lipiyomim misalek lefisho, if occasionally he removes temporarily hahargosho me'atzmusei kol kach, the feeling of himself. Kol kach means to such a great level. He's not feeling himself so strong. A person can always has to feel himself. It's impossible to be unaware of himself. But he can be not so focused on himself. He can be oblivious, so to speak, to an extent about himself. K'moi, for example, as kasher torud be'eze inyan godel. He is preoccupied in some great inyan. Shemasulok oz, he is then, at that time, removed minyone hargoshes atzmuse. From minyonim, from aspects of feeling, that have to do with feeling of himself. He is not focused on of himself. Lo yispoil oz kol kach. So then, at that time, he will not be so affected midover shuhu neged ritzeinei, from something that opposes him, that is contrary to his will, that annoys him.
What's an example of that? Negative China?
You want to have an example of something that's negative Sinai.
Yeah.
That's really very hard to find.
Is it?
If somebody I'll give you an example of this. It's someone was asked, I don't know if I ever illustrated this, who is more of a Baltaiva, a wealthy or a poor? Who is more of a Baltaiva? So everybody says, of course, the wealthy is more a Baltaiva, but that's not necessarily true. If you observe, you see like this, that if you serve a plate of soup to a poor person, what does he do? He gobbles it down before he can say boo, right? And they put it in front of the wealthy. He sits around, he buttons his jacket, unbuttons his jacket, he takes off the jacket, takes a spoon, gives a little swirl in the food, says, you know what kind of soup it is, gives it a smell, until then he tastes it, and then slowly he eats it. It can take him half hour to eat a plate of soup. The other man can eat 10 plates of soup during that time. So who's a beggar Baltaya from that observation? The poor. He can't hold himself back. Right? He can't. It says, however, there is another side to this test. What is it?
The reason why the poor is eating is not because he's about that, because he's hungry. He didn't eat for a long time.
No. Okay. Let's say that it's not in that respect that he is hungry. He just, people come in, poor people, you can serve them 3 suppers, one in a row, and it just goes down as if nothing happened. The real test comes if you come in the middle of while he's eating, take the plate away from him. So the Raman, you took the plate away? Okay? I didn't have it before, so I don't have it now. Big deal. The wealthy, if you take the plate away, he'll make a mitzvah. You bang on the table. I'm not finished yet. Don't you see I'm in the middle? What kind of thing is this? What are you doing? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you finished. What do you mean finished? There's still two spoons of spoof in there. What do you mean? So the difference is, the Raman is not so conscious of himself.
It's not so tired. Gaiva, not tired.
That's right. Gaiva and Taiva have a relationship. The Raman is not so. He doesn't feel himself so strong. The Gvir, he feels himself. Anything goes negative, he's aroused. Thank you. His Gaiva is aroused. It really touches him. There's a strong reaction. Okay. So if you need an example, here's an example. The truth is, I'm sure if you would think of an example, you would think of 100 examples within a half hour. Right. If somebody came in over there and sat down right now to be Mavid and said it out loud. All right. But if he's not so focused and doesn't feel himself at this moment, he doesn't react so much on even if something is negative. Similarly, lo yehav kol kach dovar shehu l'tevos. He will not love, he will not be drawn to with such great strength to something that is for his benefit. Nimtza. Thus it comes out that iker ha-hispoilus ha-midois, that the principle of hispoilus of midois, the arousal of midois, tolui bedas, that actually depends on das. What is das? Shehu ha-hergish. Das means the awareness, which is the awareness, not awareness, an intellectual awareness that I know something, but I'm personally aware, which is hergish. Feel. The hergish tolui be his kashrus. And the hergish depends on his kashrus, on how related, how focused, how tied into it he is. Kshemakosher dai nafshei bozeh, when his nefesh is tied into this, harehu margish zois, then he feels it, because he is attached to it. Okemoi kasher nikshero nafshe b'inyan godel yeser. Just as if his nefesh becomes attached to some inyan, godos, great inyan, yoser miyavas v'chemes agashmis, something greater than the desire for gashmis, like food, like eating and drinking. Kiim Makushar Bahaskolis Amukos. Rather, he is tied up, he is focused in Haskolis Amukos, into deep seichel, deep thought, okedoima, and such other occupations, such other interests that draw him, and they draw him beyond his gashmistic interests. Harei hu margish tiv hadover. Then, if he's attached to it, then he begins to feel tiv hadover. He feels the essence of the sinyan. He feels the very essence of the sinyan. V'nimshach lo zeh b'chol chayfetz nafshoi. V'nimshach lo zeh b'chol chayfetz nafshoi. And he is drawn into it with his entire soul. Memele, and then as a result, ein lo yiroytze kol kach b'inyonim gashmi hagashmi. He is not so desirous of gashmizik inyonim. V'pnei shemesulag daitoi mehem, because his mind is removed from them. He's not so involved in gashmis.
Can you explain the concept of discussions? I didn't.
I'm sorry, what?
The concept of discussions.
Discussions?
I didn't understand it so good that time. You said like when the person is walking, that he's connected to the thing, that he's not like. I remember you brought it in relation to discussion, no? The concept of walking in a room, that you don't like what Noah said about the sensor. You're not a sensor. It wasn't related to discussions also? I think you said it was in relation to discussions.
No, it was in context. I can't focus in on this motion.
No,
I'll explain to you what it is. But before I do, I want to repeat something that I said in class a little while ago. It's always important to reflect on this and to understand this principle. Just like in food. Food has the ingredients, the nourishing ingredients for the food, the vitamins and all kinds of minerals are in the food that are nourishing to the body. And it also has a taste. And this taste is important so that the body accepts the food. Al-Pidin, that one should not eat something that he detests, because it leaves a bad mark on his nature. Doesn't have to look necessarily for tiger, for the most tasty food, but it should not be something that his body rejects. This taste and this acceptance of the food is not just a superficial phenomenon, that the taste buds like this food. These taste buds are reflective of his nature, of his physical nature, of his physical structure, kind of construct. It's interesting, something which I myself have gone through when I was a child. I came out of Russia, and we suffered hunger tremendously. We never had enough anything. We came out, and we were in France. So in France was the first time that I saw a whole box of cube sugars, sugar cubes. And I started eating the sugar cubes like you eat an apple. And And my father also was concerned. No, sugar is not a health. You don't eat sugar like that. You eat sugar in a measured amount. It's not a food. It's a. So he consulted a doctor. The doctor said he eats sugar because he's lacking it in his organism. Let him eat it. He'll stop when his organism no longer needs it. He'll stop. When I used to go to yeshiva away from home. I used to go away for months. I was a little kid, but that's how it was in those days. He went away my father used to put in what's called a kilo of sugar cubes.
Mm-hmm.
It's 2 pounds approximately, bucks. And you didn't eat it. And it didn't take long. A few months I couldn't look at it. No, I could not. Sugar became sugar like to every normal person. But I couldn't understand how I was able to eat it like that. So the taste, this is not just a superficial thing. This is a reflection of the whole organism. And this is why the taste, it absorbs it and it relates to it because the organism relates to it. The same is true regarding seichel. If we understand something, it isn't that we make ourselves understand it. Seichel is a living thing by a person. Again, we're not talking about a computer. We're talking about a person who understands with his real seichel, with a living seichel, with his brain. So if he understands it, that means that it makes sense to him personally. And if it makes sense to him personally, that means that he can personally relate to it, not just know it. This is where the whole union of his bonanus comes in, and his kashrus, because this is something, the seichel that he understands really has pertinence, can relate to him. But he has to go through the step of bringing it in, of relating to it, of connecting to it. If he doesn't, it remains superficial. It's like somebody tasting the sugar and spitting it out, instead of chewing it up and swallowing it. So, this is what I want to bring out, that the fact that it's possible to be margish, to be iskasha, the point of view of margish, is because in fact this is something that is yours, that your seichel and your nefesh really can relate to. But because we are in a gashmistic world, it doesn't go automatic. We have to make an effort to connect to it. And the hiskashus, this is what the hiskashus is. The hiskashus is the pshat that this knowledge, or this union, whatever it is, whether it's a knowledge or it's an engashmi, this union is something that he personally connects to, not just through his faculty, through his knowledge, through his seichel, but as a personal connection. That's the idea of connection, of his kashas. Just like in the taste. You taste, taste is just a detector, investigator. Is it tasty? Is it something that I like? But that taste alone doesn't feed the person. Then he has to chew it up and swallow it. That's the hiskashas.
Comes after Hergish or before Hergish?
No, hiskashas comes before Hergish. Through as a rondo with hiskashas, he can be markish the union. He can become part of him.
So the taste is the first thing, and then the person actually...
The taste is like we said before, he learns, he feels it, he understands it.
And finally he can connect to it.
Right.
It's more practical to make it practical. That's the idea of his kashrus. Like,
No. Iskashus means that this inyan is something that pertains to me personally. It's my inyan. It's not a foreign knowledge. Something that I know about. Something that has to do with me. And this is what Rebbe explains, that a person can connect to something that is greater than the drawing that a person has to Gashmias, like food. So then he becomes drawn to it, and he doesn't want any Yonim Gashmi, because he is distracted from them completely. There is the story of the Mozitzer Rebbe. The Mozitzer, in Mozitz, there's a dynasty of Rebbes. By them, a great part of their Avodah was through Nigina, through song. And the Rabbeim themselves used to compose songs, very intricate and very delicate songs. And there was a Mozitzer Rebbe who had to undergo an operation. An operation, you have to put anesthetics, put him to sleep. So he said he'll go to the operation without anesthetics. They should just let him sing. And he said, you will know when I'm ready for the operation. And during that whole operation, he composed a very, very long, intricate, I don't know what to call it, not a song, it's a whole composition. 35 different variations. And he went through the operation, the whole operation. And he was involved in this niggin, didn't feel anything. Because his das was connected elsewhere and he didn't feel anything.
how do you call this group of Hasidim?
Mozitz.
Moshitz?
Okay, so I want to go back to the line that begins with two hays, harehu, because I want to point out the words in there. You have it? That when one is attached to haskolas amukes, to deep haskolas or other such inyonim, ruchnizik inyonim, harehu margish tiv hadover. Then he feels the nature, the tiv, the quality, the personality of the inyan. V'nimshach lozeh, and is drawn to it b'chol chayvtz nafshei, with his entire nefesh, with entire desire. So this tiv hadover, margish tiv hadover, how can we margish tiv hadover? If you know something, so I know about it. But the inyan is separate from you. But if you connect to it, you will see that it is not a separate thing from you. And you can actually feel the very essence of the thing itself. At which point, it's no longer something that I know about. It is me. At that moment, he actually experiences this in himself. He's magish tivado. And he's drawn to it b'chol chayfetz nafshi, with his entire nefesh, entire desire of his nefesh. Memele, so then automatically, einei reitze kol kach binyonim gashmim. He doesn't have such a great drawing to learning gashmim, b'pnei shemesulak daite mehem, because his mind is withdrawn from them. So all this was really a kind of an introduction, an explanation, and a moshel for the following. Koi kein hu beha hisbonenus, that the similar inyan is in the hisbonenus, that the hisbonenus in the lukus, tzorich liyois beha mokas adas. The hisbonenus itself must be in a manner of hamokas adas, of deepening his awareness, his das. And as I said, the best way that I found to kind of allude and describe this, the word hamokas, is to be submerged. And his mind is completely submerged into it. He cannot think of anything else. He is completely into this inyan. The Alter Rebbe in Tanya, as a matter of fact, describes seichel. That the seichel has a double unit in Perek Hey. I'm sure you made aware of it many times. That seichel unites with the inyan in a double way. That seichel absorbs the inyan that he learns. And seichel is also absorbed, is into the inyan that he is learning at the time when he is learning it. So at the time when he is learning it, he's completely into it. He becomes one with the inyan, not just because he takes insight, but he is surrounded by it, he's submerged by it, into it. It's called Hadmokas Adas. And that is accomplished. What does that Mokas Adas mean? That he delves, Yiska. The word Yiska means to plug in, force in, like you take a spear and you force it into the ground. It's called Yiska. Tekeya. Sheyiska daitoi b'choizek. He forces his mind strongly into the senior behai, his bonus, into this his bonus. And he is so deeply engaged in this his bonus. Ad sheyurgash ho'inyan ho'eleki benafshoy heitif. To the point that this inyan eleki is felt in his nefesh. Heitiv means very well. Again, this yurgash ho'inyan ho'eleki benafshoy means that this inyan ho'eleki is no longer something that he knows about, but that he becomes one thing with this inyan. This becomes not beyond even Chokhmah. Chokhmah verifies that it's true. I know, I've seen it. I know for sure it's true. That's only his sample. That's a verification. Substantiation. But Yurgesh Heitiv is beyond that. Yurgesh means that it is not at a distance from him. It's not something that he has to know. It's there. It's right here where he is. He actually experiences it. He experiences the inyan eleki right there. Because again, the real truth is that both Elokus is not something that that needs to be, you have to go, Bashomayim or across the seas to find it. It's all over. And the same thing in his nefesh. His nefesh also can relate to Inyan Eliki. Elokus to us is not merely something that we can know about, but it's just something that we actually can relate to. Not only can relate to, but deep down, that's the only thing we relate to. That's the only truth that the nefesh knows. But not only in the nefesh, but in the goof, because it goes to the goof, we see gashmius, and therefore we not margin Eliki, but if it's misboinen and he delves his mind very deeply into it, then the reality of his mind becomes Elokus. He focuses in on the Inyan Eliki so thoroughly that this is the only reality he's aware of, and then he actually feels that Inyan Eliki. Because the Inyan Eliki is a truth that is a real truth, not something I need to be convinced of, and it is true to his nefesh that he can actually relate to it. And this his bonus is what connects him to the scene. This is called discussions. And then he feels the Inyan Eliki b'nafshay. So I need to point out here a little more. Yurgesh ho'inyan ho'eliki b'nafshay means as follows. In everything that we understand, there is the sichli part and there is the eliki part. The sichli is that this inyan can be explained and even proven logically, apiseichel. That's the sichli. The reason that this inyan can be understood and proven apiseichel is that this inyan is a truth beyond the seichel, because it's a godly truth. Except since that we don't see godliness, we see worldliness. Therefore, our approach is through the seichel to understand the truth of the world. But after that, we understand the truth of the world. Then we can be misboinen and be margish the Inyan Eliki directly, not through the proof process of the seichel. So this Inyan we discussed in the past, quite a long time ago. Let us say, if one reflects on the Inyan that the world is a godly creation. This Inyan that the world is a godly creation is something that the seichel is compelling. Seichel directs you to recognize it, to understand it. And you can understand it from various angles. That you can readily understand that the world did not make itself. It's not such a reality that makes itself. It's a changing phenomenon. It's not real in itself. If it's not real in itself, something has to have made it. And then you go on further and explain and start thinking about this something, what kind of something is it that made it, and so forth. All that is a seichelic process. And makes very good sense. After having gone through this whole understanding, you are misboinen in the concept itself, in the conclusion, in the point. The world is a godly creation. It's not a worldly thing. It's not really something that exists on its own. then you begin to if you delve into that thought and begin to examine the world from that perspective, then you begin to see directly the Inyan Elokee. You see that in every aspect of the world, that really it's not worldly, there's a godliness in it. There's a truth in it that's beyond world. So he's magish the Inyan Elokee itself. But that, to be magish the Inyan Elokee itself, requires that he delves into it completely, so that nothing in the world distracts him. In other words, you cannot think of it from a worldly perspective. You have to go directly into the Inyan, into the godly aspect of it. You can't be margish the Inyan Elokee if all you know about it is that I have proof that the world didn't create itself. That doesn't show you Inyan Elokee. That shows you that the world is not Inyan by itself. And the Inyan Holocaust is like a secondary thing. It's like an answer to a question. You know, we have a cloud that if you have a kasha and you have a teretz, so even after you have the teretz, you still have two things. What do you have, a kasha and a teretz? It's not that you no longer have the kasha. You have the kasha and the teretz. So that doesn't really reveal to you the truth and the depth of the teretz. Because the whole substance of the teretz is that it's a teretz of this kasha. And if not for the kasha, there will be no teretz. When do you get into the depth, into the essence of the teretz? When you reflect on the inyan that this teretz reveals to you beyond the kasha. Like you said, okay, so God creates the world. So what does that mean? Forget about the kasha, where the world is coming from. What does this itself mean? Then you're delving into something that has to do with Holocaust itself. Not just something that's based on the kasha. Something that is the truth of it in itself. The reason we had a kasha is because we couldn't see the truth. But if we were to see the truth, we wouldn't have a kasha in the first place. So therefore, this truth that God creates the world is not just an answer to a kasha. It's an inherent truth. What?
I have a question. Is this the reason why, for example, sometimes like people ask questions, like questions in Torah, and like you really don't know the answer and you're really confused. Like it happens to me a lot, but you don't have any doubt about anything. Like since that you are connecting to Hasidus and you're learning the truth itself, the Lokus. So even if you don't know the logical part of it, you still know it's real 100%. It's like beyond.
That's right. Sure. It doesn't shake the truth of Torah at all. No kasha shakes the truth of Torah. You with me? All right. Okay, so let's continue on in this insight. Ki yochel liyos, 4 lines from the bottom of the paragraph. Ki yochel liyos, because it's actually possible. She'av sheyizboin v'yovin ho'inyan, that even if he reflects and he will understand the inyan shemizboin, he understands the inyan that he is reflecting upon very well. However, hu chutz le'atzmusai, this whole understanding is external, is outside of himself. He does not connect to it himself. He just knows the inyan outside. Ve'eina noigei aloi, and it does not reach him. Noigea means it doesn't touch him, and it doesn't mean anything to him personally. V'lo yi aloi mizeh, and thus, from this he will not get shum heilod of b'yava v'yira. He will not get any kind of creation of ahava v'yira, any kind of personal relationship, personal feel for the inyan. It wouldn't mean anything to him. Ki im dimyoinoi shov. Only dimyoinoi shov means false imaginations. Dimyoinoi shov, this is similar to what we said before. He has a taste of the food, but he doesn't eat it. So it makes him feel good for the moment. But it doesn't feed him. Doesn't become part of him. Validei hadas vahiskashrus, but then through the das and his kashrus and the attachment, shenirgash ho inyan ho eliki benafshei heitiv, where the inyan eliki becomes felt in his nefesh, heitiv, very well. And we explained before that this inyan, that the inyan eliki should be felt, is something which is very normal for the nefesh. Because the nefesh can in fact relate to Elokus. And it does not distract his mind from it. Then he will actually be affected and aroused with a true Ava or Yira. An Abba V'yira that is exactly reflective to the his bonus that he is misbonus. All depends what his bonus is, and exactly in reflection, exact proximity to what his bonus is. That's how what kind of midah, what kind of reaction is going to have.
So how do you know if you have after a year or just the only shot?
I'm sorry?
How does a person know if he's experiencing Abba or Yira or the Yonei Shav?
The Myonis Shov. How does a person know whether he swallowed the food or he only tasted it?
He's not hungry.
It gives him life. When you eat, let's talk about a simple, down-to-earth thing. You eat a good meal. What do you walk away with? With the taste or with the satisfaction of the meal?
Satisfaction.
If you walk away with the taste, that means that was the Myonis Shov. It wasn't real food. It was just a tasty cookie. If you had real food, you walk away with a completely different impression. Had a real experience. All right, gentlemen. We finished the whole ice. And that was quite an engaging ice. Would you like to review it? Review it? Okay, so in review we're going to do like we did last time. Like you eat, prepare, go over it as much as you can. And we'll have each one of you say a little bit, a little piece. You never did that? Because you missed it, and that's what we did. And review, I'll let everybody say it, and try to add something. Okay? So that's what we'll do next time we meet. Yes. Yes. Just okay. I'll call you. Okay.
Where it says that das v'das shahu ha'egesh, so ha'egesh totally by kashrut. That means that das in essence is the ha'egesh at a certain level. More so than it's kashrut than it's not.
His kashrus is the focus, is the his bonus. His bonus b'ha'amokas hadas. The delving into it is called his kashrus. And then comes the das. He needs to feel it.
In the Tanya, they give Surah, I think Surah Tanya, they give good example to Das, when the guy who is poor guy, he don't know how to read, he's coming to Raf and ask him to read the letter. So the Raf read the letter and say his father passed away. So poor guy is explaining to him. Raf read the letter, why he's explaining? Because Das,
That's right. Famous Moshe. Bon,
So what was that?
Ka'achila u'shtiya, such as eating
Oh,
and
we're
drinking.
After I reviewed it a couple of days ago, I really got into this. But before that, though, I was a little.
So, Mr. Shem, you're going to be on Wednesday?
Yeah.
Good. So Wednesday we'll have.
It's going to take us a little while to review this.
Yeah, it's going to take some.
But it's worth it.
What's about